And good morning, Utsoda. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining Hindu Lounge. This is Hindu Lounge episode number 64. And we come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. And Hindu Lounge, as always, is brought to you by HinduPACT. HinduPACT is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America. And as always with us is Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsav Chakrabarti is the executive director of HinduPACT. And with Utsada is always Maya Durga Chakrabarti. And she just said namaste and left. So namaste, Maya, and I am Ajay Shah. I am the president of World Hindu Council of America. We talk about contemporary American issues and global issues as they affect Hindus in America. So today, Utsada, we are going to talk about a global issue. We are going to talk about the event that HinduPACT actually did in partnership with GKPD, which is the Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora organization. And we did an event with them on Capitol Hill, near Capitol Hill rather, in a hotel. It was the event called Kashmir Moving Forward in a Dangerous Region. And this is very appropriate because August 5th is when the 2 years, we finished 2 years of India abrogating the Article 370 and 35A and really a temporary provision in Indian Constitution, rolling it back into, like all other states in India, back into the mainstream of Indian Constitution. So we'll talk about that impact on Hindus on that decision that Indian government made. So that I think I forgot to turn off my music. So let me turn my music off, and now everyone can hear me. So, Utsada, on to you, please. Your opportunity to welcome everyone and talk about the topic of the day.
Namaste, everybody, and thank you, Ajay Bhai, for that warm welcome. This is our 64th episode, and this is a fun one because we had an event at the Capitol Hill, and as far as I have heard from our friends who conducted the event, this was a fantastic event, very good content, and I looked through the videos, and I, I actually looked through the entire event's program and how it was conducted. It's very fascinating with so little resources, what people can achieve if they care and have a passion for the truth. So we will discuss that event, and we'll show you some of the videos of the event and its context, why this is important, why there needs to be information out there with events like that. So thank you for joining us.
So,
Let's go
and
forward.
so before you go there, I mean, there is a I want to keep people waiting for just a minute because we do have a teaser video that we want to play first. We have a gala coming up, HinduPACT Gala on August 22nd, and here is the video that I would like. So I save the date. It is on August 22nd, and we are going to have a really great speakers, all speaking about multi-faith experience from and the interactions that other religions have had with adherents of Hindu Dharma, Hindu faith. So with that, Utsada, on to Kashmir, which is our main topic of the day, and we are going to talk about this Kashmir Moving Forward event, Kashmir Moving Forward in a Dangerous Zone event that was organized by HinduPACT and the organization, Kashmiri Diaspora organization called GKPD. So please talk about it, Utsada.
Yes, so you can see
And
me.
then feel free to share your screen. I think you're driving this screen sharing this time.
Correct. You can see me, Ajay Bhai, everybody, and
Yes,
my
I
sound
can.
is clear? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
absolutely.
So my daughter is here again. Maya Durga says hello to everybody. She could not say hello last time. So yeah, so this week was very fascinating. On 29th of July, the Kashmiri groups and HinduPACT joined hands to do an outreach event at the Capitol Hill, and it was primarily aimed at getting a status quo of what's happening in the region as we approach the second year anniversary of the removal of Article 370 and the full integration of Jammu and Kashmir with the Indian Constitution. And because, as most of us are aware of, and if you are a listener who is not aware of this, India in 1954 instituted temporary provisions of what was called Article 370 and 35A, which gave special status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But what happened was that in those subsequent years, it became almost a sore thumb, as no political party in India had the ability in terms of political will to remove these temporary provisions, even though they were temporary provisions. And as India progressed, as more and more people realized what the Article 370 was doing, it was essentially alienating the people of Jammu and Kashmir using special provisions that were not just discriminatory to minority communities there, but also to the women of Jammu and Kashmir and to the members of the LGBTQ plus communities as well, the members of the downtrodden parts of the society, especially the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, as they're depicted in the Constitution of India. So all these things compounded a very, very socially and politically dangerous status that was festering in Jammu and Kashmir. And it took many years. It took 60 years for almost 60 years for India to figure that out and generate the political will to move away from that temporary provision. So Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took it upon himself to do it, and since then there has been a real improvement in the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir over the past 2 years has seen about 40% less recruitment to radicalized Islamist terrorist groups from the valley, which was a problem before that. Pakistan, being the neighboring state, neighboring country, has had created trouble in the region. And this event at the Capitol Hill was primarily aimed at understanding what's happening in the region now in the context of what China is doing through its Belt and Road Initiative, as well as what Pakistan is doing in Afghanistan through its support for terrorism in the form of full logistical, political, and even military support to the Taliban. And as you may know, most of you might be following the news, Taliban is trying to win the capital cities of the different districts in Afghanistan. There is a serious war going on in Afghanistan, supported by Pakistan, which in the past 20 years has killed. Pakistan has actually enabled the death of about 3,500 American men and women. And not just that, Pakistan harbored the most wanted terrorist in the world, Osama bin Laden, for many years, right next to its military academy in near its capital, Islamabad. The place is called Abbottabad. So this whole event was analyzing that from different perspectives. So there were the Kashmiri participants. Then there was participants from Pakistan occupied Kashmir.
Why don't we show the nice poster that the event organizers had created?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you guys.
And it has the list of all the speakers as well. And we had a broad range of speakers. It was interesting that one of the Twitter posts that I saw on the event, Sudha, said that there were no Muslim speakers in the event. And actually, it turned out, well, first of all, we are a Hindu organization. We don't have to prove by virtue of being Hindus, we are secular. We don't have to invite, someone else from other faith to prove our secularism. But it just turned out in this particular case, there were ample people from other faith present. But so while you bring that up, I just want to let everyone know that this is not the first time we as BHPA and HinduNet have worked on Kashmir issue. I have special issues that we published of our magazine called Hindu Vishwa from 1990s. And in 1990s, we had special issues on Kashmir. At that time, as you recall, and many people may or may not recall, that the terrorism was just taking hold in the Kashmir Valley, and we published actually a special issue, and we did a lot of awareness campaigns, quite a few awareness campaigns throughout America, telling people about the Kashmir issue in India. I as part of this, one of the co-founders of Hindu Students Council, one of the first projects that we took up as part of Hindu Students Council was a Kashmir awareness campaign. So we have a substantial resume going back to 1989 and 1990, where we have done events and we have talked about Kashmir. So this is by no means a one-off event. I know that we have worked very closely, not just with GKPD, but also another Kashmir diaspora organization called Kashmir Overseas Association, and we have worked with them for many years. So we have a lot of credibility when it comes to talking about the when it comes to talking about the Kashmir issue. So, on to you. Tell us about the event here.
So do you see
Or
the
maybe I
screen?
should.
Do you see
Yeah,
the poster?
yeah.
Perfect.
Let me put it this way so people can read this, and let me remove the title. There we go. Tell
So,
us.
the as you can see, the poster shows the speakers, and it is important to know who the speakers were, because the people who spoke there encompass a multitude and diversity of thought process that is emerging from the region and how it is being seen in America. So if you see, one of the speakers was Mohan Sapru, who is a Kashmiri human rights activist and member of GKPD. He was the host of the event as well as the main speaker. He himself is a victim of terrorism. So his personal family story is a story that we represents the story of many Kashmiris and what they went through in the last 30 years. And then you had Khalida Nawabi. She's a law student and an Afghan human rights defender. She's also a personal victim of Pakistan-sponsored terrorism because she had to flee Afghanistan uh, as a kid in the 90s when the Taliban first came to power in the mid 90s. So her entire life has been framed and changed by Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. And we will be showing, pieces of the speeches that many of these speakers gave. You had Nisar Hawaii. He's a Pashtun leader in America and a very very politically astute and knowledgeable speaker, a very strong Muslim as well, activist as well. And he was one of the speakers, and he gave his perspective of what Pakistan has done in terms of influencing radical Islamism in that part of the world, and fueling terror activities through the use of Islamism. And then you had Senge Sering. Senge Sering is also from Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. He's actually from the part which is nowadays called Gilgit Baltistan. It's a separate region that Pakistan has created out of Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And he is the founder of Gilgit Baltistan Institute. He was born when Pakistan was already there and Kashmir had already been occupied. And he was born in occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, and now he is the founder of Gilgit-Baltistan Institute. Very astute observer of politics in that region, especially how China operates through the Belt and Road Initiative. And then, of course, we had Clifford Smith, a young upcoming analyst. He's an expert on radical Islamism and terrorism emerging from the Middle East and the entire South and Southeast Asian region. He gave a very good understanding of how all these radical groups and their supporters and the different states, Pakistan, Turkey, Qatar, all combined together to create a very powerful lobbying group in America, because of which, despite 3,000 plus people, Americans dying in Afghanistan, despite Osama bin Laden being found near the capital of Pakistan, America has still not been able to fully gather the enormity of where the problem lies. And even when it is able to do that, it's not able to act upon it. It's such a powerful lobbying group that Clifford Smith threw some light on. So all these individuals presented a very diverse analysis of the region. And I personally, when I saw the videos, I was very impressed with the fact that you really have to understand and thank Prime Minister Modi's foresight into predicting a situation that would arrive out of what China is doing now, out of what Pakistan is and Taliban are doing in Afghanistan, and take the opportunity 2 years ago to get rid of the temporary provisions of Article 370. That, in my opinion, was a very seriously astute foresight and strategic thinking. And so
So,
I will go back.
before we go to the next slide, I'm going to put this quiz question, which I just typed up, so that and people can type the answer in the chat. So, who took the Kashmir issue to the United Nations? Was it which country and which leader? Okay, it could be any one of the 200 countries in the world, right? So let's find out if what our viewers think about it. So quiz question: who took the Kashmir issue to the United Nations? All right, so please keep going.
So now I'm going to play a video from one of the speakers, Khalida Nawabi, and you all can see what she spoke and what her thoughts were. So this is a small video clip, and Ajay bhai, let me know if you can see.
To explain those violations about women violation, about children violation, about killing them, about ruining everything. How many violations? It is very disappointed, very disappointed. I need international community to put that pressure on Pakistan. Now let's come to the Kashmir. Oh my God, their history is more than us. I mean, in context of the violations. Look, the Kashmiris. For me, I understand I'm a Muslim. I respect every other religion. But for me, this violation is too much to take by me. Why every day the human life is killed in Kashmir? Who is doing that? Who is doing that? Of course, Pakistan has big interference in Kashmir too. From the day of its independence, I don't know why this country come to existence. They come to in existence just to destroy other countries in the region. I can compare other countries. India is there, Iran, everybody's doing their part. But Pakistan has done the extreme limitation of every type of violation, interference in Kashmir, in Afghanistan. Now they are trying to bring China. You know, China is a good partner with Pakistan. Everybody knows. I don't want to. Now they want to shelter Taliban discussion under the China or something in relation with them. You know, what is China doing? China is the same as the Communist Party, as the Russia. What are they doing with the Muslims in there? Now, I am not protecting only Muslims, but my question is, are there human rights violation in China? Yes, Pakistan has made this type of platform to either use anytime. If anybody had read those books, I forget the name, Pakistan is a renter. As a renter means they lend their lands for those purposes. Now they are what doing? They are themselves doing that, not as a renter. Now they are the original to do those.
So Ajay bhai, that was from Khalida, and I think your sound is off. So as you can see, as an Afghan who actually Khalida spent early years of her life as a refugee in Pakistan. So it's not like she hasn't seen Pakistan. She has seen Pakistan from the inside. And Khalida's speech was so point. She was to the point in terms of understanding what her personal story was and reflecting it on what is happening in the region now. And I have to thank that for somebody who faces death threats from the Taliban to come to Washington DC's Capitol Hill and go on video and say the things Khalida said. It takes a lot of courage, and it is the responsibility of people around the world, including ourselves and organizations like ourselves, to give support and energy to sisters like Khalida Nawabi, who was with us and whose video you just saw. So, as HinduPACT, when people say, you guys don't talk about other communities, we talk about people who are suffering, and Khalida is one of them. And that's why we wanted to bring her and share her personal experience.
Can you? There's a lot of echo. Okay. Utsada, it is really telling, because when the if you look at the history, the last 40-year, 50-year history of Afghanistan, actually Afghanistan has suffered quite a bit. The millions of Afghans who were rendered homeless, and actually because of Taliban, the condition of women in Afghanistan. At one time there were women surgeons and women journalists and women engineers and lawyers and all of that in Afghanistan, and that was in 1960s and 1970s. And then when Taliban came to power, the entire makeup of Taliban, entire makeup of Afghanistan when it came to women in Afghanistan has changed, right? I mean, they were basically, they couldn't even go out without a male companion. They had to wear this, you know, very, full face covering, burqas, and they could not go to schools. They could not, obviously, not go to colleges, and they could not work outside the home. So I think when we talk about the human rights in Afghanistan, I mean, I think it's we talked about a lot of it last week. We had a special show on Afghanistan, but now we can think of in Kashmir perspective, this is Pakistan and Talibanis bringing what has happened to Afghanistan and what has happened in Afghanistan. They want to bring it to Kashmir. And I think that is something that is, it is gravely concerning from the human rights perspective and from the women's rights perspective. And if you now we talk about, as we were talking about the Article 370 and 35A, and you made you rightly said that this was one of the most oppressive, laws, oppressive region in India, because they had their own kind of separate constitution and separate flag and all of that, and they confined the scheduled caste community only to cleaning jobs. They would not give equal right to women. The women in Kashmir, if they were to marry someone from outside of Kashmir, they would lose their property rights, and they would use their rights to even own businesses and properties in Kashmir. They had they had similar restrictions that in on all other minorities that they could put. So this is the reason why, after spending billions of dollars, Kashmir did not make the kind of progress it should have made. And I think that is something that uh, I think that Article 370 got rid of. It provided opportunities to people in Jammu and Kashmir to be equal, not just within the Jammu and Kashmir state and Ladakh, but also now they have a parity with respect to rights and in privileges as other citizens of India do. In terms of the affirmative actions and women's right and all the other things. So I think this was this is something. The only reason I would say so that the only reason why someone like Pakistan would oppose this purely internal matter of India is because they see this equality and they see this opportunity and economic progress that will come with this removal of articles to be impediment in their quest to take over a region of India and turn it into a Taliban governed state like Afghanistan is. Okay, so that on to you. And if not, I'll continue. Sada seems to be having some problems. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, and I want to go to the next video of the next speaker, who was Nisar Hawaii, a very astute Pashtun leader, also from Afghanistan, and let's hear him out, and you'll realize what Pakistan has done to the region, and this is not just something that Hindus or Indians talk about. This is something that everybody is talking about in that region. So I'm going to just go to the next video, and I want people to hear the videos because they hear us every week. But this is opinion that is coming from across a diverse group of people who are actual victims of what's happening in the region.
I believe strongly that people in Afghanistan and people in Kashmir and minorities in Pakistan, namely Gilgit, we are victim of proxy wars that are supported, funded, and harbored in Pakistan. And it's not happening from an individual group. It's happening through the state. We believe that the Pakistani army, we believe that the Pakistani intelligence agency, they're pursuing what they call as strategic depth policy. And what that does is they are trying to destabilize minorities to rule. They have an elite group, that's the army. and the intelligence agency. They suck the blood of their own people, and also they're trying to do the same with the neighboring countries. So it's not something that is happening in the shadow anymore, as Sister Khalida said, as Brother Mohan pointed out to it. So they have narratives. It's a Pakistani narrative that if you ask a Pakistani major, the prime minister, the teacher, the locals, even drivers, mechanics, and educated, uneducated people in the small town, they speak the same language.
So, Sudha, I must apologize to our viewers, and somebody actually made this point on the chat as well, that the audio was not very, or not very good on this. So maybe you can, if you have seen the this clip before, maybe you can summarize what the speaker was saying, because
Yes,
it was
yes.
somewhat inaudible.
Yeah. So what Nisar was saying was, in summation, that many people perceive that it's the establishment or the military in Pakistan that was that was weak. That's a that has the problem creating abilities. So it's the military and the elite and the ruling parties that cause terrorism, train terrorism, export terrorism. But what Nisar pointed out was that it's not the case. In his opinion, again, Nisar is somebody who spent a significant amount of time life growing up in Pakistan. He has gone back to Pakistan many times. He explained how he travels around Peshawar and Quetta and all these places, which are hubs of both Pakistani ISI as well as terror group activities. So Nisar very clearly pointed out that, look, it's not just that the political leadership and the military is the problem. It is across the spectrum of the whole society, because the whole society in Pakistan believes in the narrative of Ghazwa-e-Hind and Pakistan being the anointed leader of the Islamic world in terms of carrying the flag of Islam, whatever that means. But that is the reality. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to many educated people around the world, but if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, you got to take it for what its face value is. So, and that's a problem, because it's a country, it has immense resources, it has nuclear weapons, and it uses these tools to blackmail other countries and other powers, and it basically uses everything it can to extract its pound of flesh, literally sometimes. So that's what Nisar's point was. I added some more to explain what he meant. And he was mainly pointing out about his experience of meeting Pakistanis at every strata of their society when he travels there, who kind of follow the same ideological and geopolitical narrative that the military and the ISI and the terrorist groups follow. That was Nisar Hawaii, also an Afghan activist, who was as part of the event that we just showed the video of, Kashmir event. So if you want, Ajay bhai, you want to have another quiz question, or do you want me to go ahead and show the next speaker?
Let's have a quiz question. So while we'll give the answer after the video is done. So go ahead and show the quiz question.
Okay. The quiz question is, hold on, I am getting there. Just 1 minute. You carry on, Ajay. Let's actually carry on forward with the show before I come up.
Here's the quiz question. This is the one you want with the which one do you want?
I was going to show Senge's speech, and then
go for Senge's speech, and then we'll come back to the quiz question after that.
Senge's speech will Senge Sering, who is from Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Once you hear his speech, you will kind of get a better understanding of where the question is coming from.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so I am going to try to share the screen again, and let's see.
And with a good volume this time.
Yes, I will try to. I that video was at the best volume I could put it. It's just that it didn't have the volume that well.
And that happens. It's not a problem.
All right. So do you see my screen?
Not yet. It's coming.
Okay. Just 1 minute. I will switch it on. It actually, there is a switch on and off option for the screen. Do you see it now?
Right. Yes, I can.
Okay. Again, in this situation, the lighting is not that good because there was a bright digital screen behind. So you gotta, we everybody who was at the venue, uh, we as a HinduPACT organization, we tried to help them out, but we have limited resources, so we did the best.
I want to invite our very distinguished speaker, Singh Sering. He's the founder and current head of the Washington, D.C. based Institute for Gilgit-Baltistan Studies. He was born, of course, in Pakistan, occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. He writes a lot, many of you might have read about it, the sufferings of the people in the region. He has extensively lectured on that, on many of those aspects. So without further ado, I just want to invite Singh to please give us your insight on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, leading into good afternoon. Thank you so much, Dr. Sapru. It's an honor to be here among our friends. Invited me, and I'm really moved with the personal stories of how.
Singh, I want to invite our very distinguished speaker, Singh Sering. He's the founder and current head of the Washington, D.C. based Institute for Gilgit-Baltistan Studies. He was born, of course, in Pakistan, occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. He writes a lot, many of you might have read about it, the sufferings of the people in the region. He has extensively lectured on that, on many of those aspects. So without further ado, I just want to invite Singh to please give us your insight on this issue. Thank you.
Good morning, leading into good afternoon. Thank you so much, Dr. Sapru. It's an honor to be here among our friends. Invited me, and I'm really moved with the personal stories of Palestine, this thought about Afghanistan, and about the Punjab community that you've brought forward. So thank you so much for sharing your personal experience with us. My name is Singh Sering. I come from Gilgit-Baltistan. You can look at the map. This is where I was born. Right now, it is shown as part of India because constitutionally India claims the entire Jammu and Kashmir. But the line is drawn somewhere here called line of control, where the land on the other side of the line of control is in Pakistani occupation. And you can see we share a border with Afghanistan. There's about a 9-mile distance here, then Tajikistan is right there, so immediate neighbors. Xinjiang and Chinese occupation is right there, where the Uyghurs are facing genocide right now. This is the Afghan area that is in Pakistani occupation right now that Nisar was talking about. And this is where the CPAC comes from China, from Xinjiang, into Gwadar, into Baluchistan and Sindh. So you can see that without this land in Pakistani occupation, China would not have a CPAC going through Pakistan. Pakistan would not have an ally in the form of China. So I think extremely important to learn about the geography of Gilgit-Baltistan in context of rest of India. And one thing that I would like to mention is that India, with a billion-strong people, could have had access to the natural resources in Central Asia, like oil and gas and other resources in Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, if this border was open. India would not have been dependent on Iran, or the Arab countries through different sea lanes. So I think this area is also very important for, apart from the fact that historically it is part of India, from the economic point of view, extremely important for India as well. Afghanistan would have shared the direct border with India if Gilgit-Baltistan was still part of India. And that would have made a huge difference in how we deal with terrorism, how we deal with Taliban. So right now, because India does not have a border with its ally Afghanistan, they have to go through Iran, which is not a very predictable and dependable ally. Iran itself is promoting terrorism in Afghanistan, as we all know. And it has made a life for the United States very difficult while dealing with terrorist organizations there. So while we're looking at Pakistan, China, Taliban nexus, we should not forget that, the fact that India does not have an access to Afghanistan is also allowing Iran to play the game, against the interest of against the peace in the entire region. The removal of Article 370 kind of changed how we look at Kashmir. You know, the fact that all the regimes before Prime Minister Modi, starting all the way from Nehru to Prime Minister Modi, they wanted to remove.
Stage I want to.
So Ajay bhai, as I said, every time I try to change something, it shoots back to the original default mode and starts replaying the video. So it did it again. So I think
Yeah, I see what happened. That's
in the
right.
interest of time, we will have to move forward. Ideally, I would have wanted to show the whole video, but would you want me to still show it? Because it's going to just go back and redo the 5 minutes we had already seen.
No, we don't want to see the whole 5 minutes. If there's a way to forward it to where you stopped, that would be good. Otherwise, you can summarize it. Either way that works for you. I mean, either way is fine.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't. I don't have the ability to forward it to where it went. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know why it doesn't allow me to do that.
So tell us what he said. Summarize it for us.
So the most fascinating thing that Senge put forward was the fact that, and this was going to come right after the part where we unfortunately, when I clicked on the screen trying to minimize the sidebar, it goes back to the original starting point. He was saying that he felt like a soccer fan from Manchester United or Barcelona after their team has won a European Cup. That's literally how he felt when Prime Minister Modi and in government of India removed the temporary provisions of Article 370, and that kind of shows that look.
But that was because he was the only one cheering the opposition team in coming from that region. Or he was one of the few people who were cheering. That's what he was trying to say.
Well, it is sometimes very interesting because there are a lot of people in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir who would be, happier if India was more proactive and more aggressive in trying to do outreach to them and trying to integrate the remaining parts of Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir into India. And I think there are people there. There is a small number of people who express it, very small number, because you live in a country where you will be shot dead if you disagree with people, including journalists, and that's why people like Senge who have left Pakistan, who are based in the United States, and who don't have a chance of going back, they speak their mind. They speak what comes from inside their heart. But what Senge was pointing out is there are many people back in Gilgit-Baltistan as well as Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where people do believe that India is probably a much better country to be with because, India is a better country to be in.
So that I must say that not to disagree with you in a broad sense, but I must say that last week and the week before last there were elections in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and Pakistan's Imran Khan's party PTI, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, won the election, and a lot of the opposition parties not only think that the elections were rigged, but they also came out and made a statement. A lot of people made the statements that there is no real democracy and they would be actually better off with India. And there were slogans in Pakistan occupied Kashmir that said, Kashmir banega Hindustan. And there was a Pakistan Muslim League legislator who actually gave an open speech saying that if the rigging of this kind is not addressed, the election rigging, then he would ask India to intervene in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir's administration. So there is, and we have seen the videos of people, marching through the streets of, in various cities of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, asking that that Kashmir banega Hindustan. So I think I would not say that this movement is like 90% of the people are asking, but there is a budding movement, Utsoda, of people now in Pakistan occupied Kashmir realizing that with true democracy emerging in the Jammu and Kashmir state of India, they want to be part of that. And if the Article 370 and 35A were not abrogated, maybe those people would not have felt like that. They would have felt like they want to be still part of Pakistan because the conditions in Jammu and Kashmir are much better now. And even so, that's another. I think people like Sanjay Serene are looking at it, and they have good of people in Pakistan occupied Kashmir at heart, and they are saying, really, Pakistan has nothing but exploited this entire occupied territory for its own political gain. So your comments, Soda.
No, it's more than that. Actually, many of these people have actually realized by now that they are cannon fodder. It's not just politics, but it's also actual lives. There are people in Jammu and Kashmir, in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, including in Gilgit-Baltistan. If you remember, in the 1990s, when the Kargil events of Kargil unfolded, most of the men that Pakistan sent to capture the heights in that region were from Gilgit and Baltistan. They were Northern Light Infantry Battalion people who were all children from that region who were sent there to die, and Pakistan even denied that they existed for years after they were. India had to send their bodies back to Pakistan after their identities with full Pakistani army identity cards were being revealed. Pakistan even refused that they were Pakistanis. So these people are beginning to realize that whether they are from Gilgit-Baltistan, whether they are from the region of Jammu, which is in control of Pakistan, across from the border, in Muzaffarabad and Bimber and all those areas, they are just the young men being sent to die, either as terrorists or in the Pakistani army. And Pakistan doesn't take them as, they're cannon fodder. So Pakistan is fighting its Ghazwa-e Hind against India to the last Kashmiri, basically. So
Yeah.
so that is how they're playing this, and they really
So
believe.
I have a quiz question for our astute viewers. So in this region, India has an Air Force base that is located outside of India. Can you name the Air Force base and where and what country it is located in? Okay. So the quiz question is on the screen. India has an Air Force base located outside of India in this region. Name the country and name the Air Force base. Okay, I'll leave that as a quiz question. Not a very simple one because people in India, people who are Indian diaspora people or Hindus around the world, they don't quite think of India having an Air Force base outside of India.
I am
So
giving
this
a
is a
hint
good
here.
quiz question.
I'm giving a hint here. I'm actually showing the map of the region,
All
and
right.
as the status quo stands over the last couple of months.
Explain this region and why is it a dangerous region? Looking at the map, and I think you have some more speeches as well, right? Or this
Yeah,
was it?
I have one more speech, and this time
Okay.
I'm gonna just play it. I realized last time I could not change the sidebar because I'm playing it from the internet, not from the PowerPoint. I didn't, it's playing directly from OneDrive. That's why I could not.
Then
So,
okay. All right,
so
go ahead.
any case, if you can see the map, right, Ajay bhai? The
Yes,
map of the region.
leave the quiz. We will leave the quiz question. We will not answer the quiz question until after the video. Okay.
Okay.
So once again, before this screen disappears, India has an Air Force base that is located in this region that you're looking at the map. This is the region of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir, by the way, also includes Ladakh, includes Aksai Chin, that is currently occupied by China. It also includes Baltistan, which was integral part of Jammu and Kashmir for thousands of years. Okay, so in this region, India has an Air Force base question is, in what country and what is that base? And we'll answer the question. We'll take your responses in the chat and we'll display the answers and we'll talk about it right after the video. Go ahead, Utsada, the last speech.
Okay, so I wanted to show this map first. If you look at this map, you will understand where India is right now and at this point of time. What you see in the green is Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which in the portion down here, if you see my mouse on the screen, is the part that is taken away from the Jammu and the Kashmir region. So ethnically, the people in this region are either Kashmiris, some small part Kashmiris, and a little down here, mostly Punjabis and Hadis, converted obviously in the past several hundred years, right next to Jammu in this area. So that's the sliver that you see here, which is mostly ethnically Kashmiri and Jammu and Pahadi and Punjabi. What you go up here is Gilgit-Baltistan, which has been separated by Pakistan. And this is where Senghe Saring comes from. He's from Baltistan. It's officially in the Indian map that you see going around here, but this part is under the capture of Pakistan. And Pakistan has given a small portion of this area to China, which is the Sakshgam Valley. And because of that, China can build a highway through Pakistan, into Pakistan, through Indian territory, which is Pakistan occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. And that is what Belt and Road Initiative is. Here you see a road that goes into China, into Tibet actually. Tibet is occupied by China. And that is the Karakoram Pass. And this is the Siachen Glacier. So you understand the importance of Siachen Glacier because it is the point of intersection between Tibet, which is China-occupied Tibet, China-occupied India, or Gilgit-Baltistan, which is part of India, Pakistan-occupied India, which is Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, and Siachen overlooks this joining point. So it is one of the most strategically crucial areas. This area that you see here is the land that was ceded by Pandit Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, during the 1962 war to China. And that this area you see is the Indian territory, Union Territory of Ladakh, and this is Jammu and Kashmir, as you see. Now, if you are, I'm just digressing for 20 seconds here. If you are following news in the recent past, this is the point of conflict with Chinese occupied, China occupied Tibet forces in the recent past, in the Galwan Valley, the Pangong Sa Lake, and these were the areas where the fighting was happening, where Indian soldiers lost life and Chinese also lost lives in the recent past. India fought very bravely and pushed back Chinese incursions in this area. So I just wanted to give this brief understanding of the region because we have been talking about it for so long, and I'm pretty sure many of our viewers don't know what the situation is now. And as for the question for the Air Force, I'm not going to give the answer, but I'm going to hint something.
Well, there are a lot of answers here already on the chat. So,
okay.
But we'll give more opportunity to other people who have not answered. Let's go ahead and play the video. So, no need for hint. There's so many answers coming in.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. And when you see the slide, Ajay Bhai, let me, I'm going to play the video. And you can tell me if you can hear it. Again, the lighting is not good because of the screen in the back, which was glowing. So, but I hope that you will be able to hear the sound.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I will say at the beginning, Mr. Sapru said that this is a session for discussing pain. I don't have any pain. I mean, I am a middle-class white kid originally from Seattle. So I come to this as an outsider entirely. However, I am a kid that has cared about America, about the oppressed around the world my whole life. From Seattle is a guy who died when I was a baby, but his name was Senator Scoop Jackson. He was a hero of mine, is a hero of mine. He spent most of his life in politics. He was a middle-class kid from the suburbs. He became a senator. And he spent most of his time standing up for the rights of the oppressed in the context of the Cold War. I look up to him as my hero, and well, I'm not a senator, and I seriously doubt I will ever become one. I try in a small way to stand up for the rights of the oppressed around the world. To what I do personally, the Middle East Forum is where I work for. It's my employer, that's who I work for. And as you might notice, the Middle East is not South Asia. It is a different place. It is not that far, but it's different, it's distinct. How did I get involved in this? Well, a few years ago, one of my coworkers, who is an expert in radical movements and an expert in sort of how these movements work, started noticing something that should have been noticed, frankly, by people like us a long time ago, but for various reasons not. And that is that various Islamist groups have their roots in South Asia, are increasingly vocal in Europe, and especially in America, in ways that were influencing our politics. And he went to me and said, hey, look, we need to do something in Washington about this. I should start with one other thing here. When I speak of Islamist groups, what I'm not speaking of is Muslims. What I'm not speaking of is the vast majority of American Muslims, or Muslims abroad, or anywhere else. When I speak of Islamists, I speak of people that see no greater good than theocracy, of their own narrow interpretation of Islam and the absolute rule of that narrow interpretation. Those people do not represent all or most Muslims at home or abroad. Unfortunately, they are oftentimes the most organized, both at home and abroad, and that disproportionate power. In any event, so when it comes to these groups have, as I mentioned, are the best organized, and they have power, and they have the veneer both of ethnic and religious authority in them, that they try to cloak themselves in that. So when congressmen or senators or even people in the State Department, Defense Department, whatever have you, try to understand this of the regions, way too often they look to these groups, even though these same groups do not necessarily have the best interests, or the interests at all, frankly, of the people involved. That is how we got involved in some of these fights. So, what are you up against? I guess is the next issue. As I mentioned, the Middle East Forum predominantly deals with the Middle East, and there are numerous lessons to be learned here, numerous factors that affect what you guys are talking about here. For decades, largely, but not exclusively, because of the Israel-Palestine conflict, there have been groups that are commonly associated with different stripes of radicalism from the Middle East that have grown up around that conflict and grown up around that point of view. And they are influential in lobbying Congress in trying to represent their version of Islam and their theocratic tendencies, I would argue, as being the mainstream of Islam, as being what these people want and what is best for the people of the region. And they have a constituency. They're not the majority, but they have a constituency, and they get things through. Now, here's the difference. Everybody on Capitol Hill, a couple blocks from here, in the House and Senate office buildings, knows or think they know what they think about Israel-Palestine. They know or they think they know what they believe about the Middle East, about Arabia or Egypt or Iraq. Bluntly, and this might be funny, but it's also true, most of them think that Kashmir is a song by Led Zeppelin. They know nothing about it. So the point is, the first thing they hear about it is what they tend to believe. Why wouldn't they? They don't know anything else. So, a couple of years ago, not long after Article 370 was abrogated, we had a hearing on human rights in South Asia in the subcommittee, in the Foreign Affairs Subcommittee. Ilhan Omar, a Somali Muslim woman that was immigrated here, sought a special waiver to speak at this committee. Why? Because she had any expertise on South Asia. No. Somalia is 2,500 miles away from India. And moreover, she spent most of her life living in the US. No, she sought it because she has taken it on herself to represent the rights, the point of view, that is, of Islamist groups, not majority Muslims, but Islamist groups. She came here and talked to a reporter who was a Kashmiri Pandit, a Kashmiri Hindu, who had come to testify on the history of her people and the plight of her people. And she sought to demonize this woman based essentially on an article that, articles have been written by a group called Stand with Kashmir. There was an article written just a couple days before she came out. It's actually funny if you look at it. It came out like 2-3 days, I think, before the hearing. How much her talking points lined up almost exactly with what this article was saying. She was just reciting what was being fed to her, essentially. Now, who is Stand with Kashmir? Stand with Kashmir is a group that popped out of the ground sometime magically between, at the beginning of 2019, 2018-2019, and they're made up of academics and activists that have far left and Islamist points of view. They are frequent partners of the Islamic Circle of North America. Who is the Islamic Circle of North America? According to even left-wing scholars in major universities such as Johns Hopkins, a few miles from here, they are the Western face of Jamaat-e-Islami. Singh mentioned, their role in some of this. That theocratic group in that region that seeks to impose Islamic law. Stand with Kashmir openly celebrates activists and jihadists from Hizbul Mujahideen. They tweet things when one of them got taken out by Indian security forces. When a terrorist got taken out by Indian security forces, they tweeted about how he was murdered by Indian security forces. No mention of the fact that Hizbul Mujahideen is a group that, for example, literally, gang raped and sawed a young woman in half decades ago. That they still do things like this to this day. No mention of that at all. Stand with Kashmir is also partnering with numerous other Islamist groups all around the country to paint a narrative of what is going on in Kashmir on a blank slate, because very few know about it. I'm not an expert in the region, and I don't pretend to be. However, just to show you kind of a small example of the kind of thing I'm talking about, there's another group that is also sort of a Jamaat-e-Islami franchise, if you were, called Sound Vision. It's a media and company that is dedicated to sort of promoting this point of view. One of the head honchos wrote an article not that long ago discussing Kashmir, and she made a bunch of really wild claims about the Indian security forces massacring 100,000 Kashmiris. And she also, after saying 100,000, she said there have also been, and I might be making up this number slightly, but I believe she said there was 10,283 rapes, some very specific number, which was just bizarre. And I went and looked it up. I'm like, where did this number come from? Well, if you kind of peel back the onion a few layers, she didn't have a link, she didn't have a study, she didn't mention. You find out she's citing a number from a Pakistani propaganda website that's like 20 years old. This is the kind of information that is being put out there. Now, look, you don't have to agree with every single thing the Indian government has done or every action the security forces have taken to realize that these are not numbers being presented in good faith. This is not a narrative that is based in reality. This is a narrative that is trying to reach a goal. It is trying to establish something. It doesn't stop there. It's not that. It gets much worse, I would argue. Imran Khan gave a speech to a conference, the Islamic Society of North America. It was distinct from the Islamic Circle of North America. It's like an organization. Unlike the Islamic Circle of North America, which at least has some ties to South Asia, bad ones, but ties anyway, Islamic Society of North America is based out of the Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood out of South Asia. Why did Imran Khan want to give a speech to them? Well, because he recognizes what I said earlier, that because of the fights over Israel, Palestine, other issues in the Middle East, this group has an established network in the United States, and if he can co-opt that for his purposes, he can influence what happens in Kashmir. and he can influence what happens in Afghanistan, what happens to his own country. And increasingly, you are seeing these different types of actors, Muslim Brotherhood, Jamaat-e-Islami, their various friends and enablers, working together towards the same goal. And working together using the same kind of tactics of, shall we say, light on the facts, heavy on the narrative, ignoring any inconvenient facts, not even acknowledging any of the history or complexity of the region, aimed at dismissing the concerns of Kashmiri Hindus and the Kashmiri Pandits, ignoring the wishes of the everyday Kashmiri Muslims, of seeking only a rule of Islamists rather than the average person, the average Indian Muslim. So the point is simply this: is that at the end of the day,
So that this was a very powerful speech. I think there are a lot of takeaways. He talked about Ilan Omar and she has taken on the mantle of speaking for radical Islamists. He also talked about how the people who speak against the narrative presented by the radical Islamist lobby are intimidated. So I think it's very eye opening for people who have not seen and not heard this before. Um, but so that I before I bring you in the conversation, we did have a quiz question. So I'm going to show the quiz question, and we are going to give out the answer and what people said about the. So the quiz question was, there is a Air Force base that India has, which is in this region. And Utsada, you can share the screen to show the region again. But in this region, which is outside of India, and we asked our viewers, where is this base located? And so it turns out that it validates what most of us have already known, and that are the viewers we have are absolutely brilliant. They know the history. They know the they know the region. They know the issues. So several people got it right. So that you're going to share the screen, right, with the map. We're
Okay.
waiting.
Okay.
But this is the map of the base. Okay. So Sanatani Hindu said Tajikistan, absolutely correct. Manoj Bala Tiwari ji has said Farkhor, correct, and she also said Tajikistan, and that is correct. So I think everyone got it right. So that do you have a map that you can show where this Air Force base is located and how close it is to Pakistani border, but from the other side of India?
Yes. So can you see my screen? Can you see my screen, Ajay bhai?
Just a second. Yes, I can.
Okay. So what you see here is the map here, and Tajikistan is where my mouse is, and right under what you see is the Wakhan corridor. So Wakhan corridor is a sliver of Afghanistan that goes and juts and actually shares a border with India technically, but now with Pakistan, because it's Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. And this is Afghanistan, the dirty green that you see, and right to the north of that is the Wakhan corridor. And the Air Force base is right here where you see the mouse, right under the Wakhan corridor. And so it gives India the ability to actually approach its adversaries from a different side rather than just from Jammu and Kashmir. So that is where the Indian Air Force Base is. It is in Tajikistan. Speaking of Tajikistan, if you see, this is a fresco of Lord Shiva from Tajikistan too. It's called the Penjikent Shiva and this deity, Lord Shiva. I don't know if you can see the screen that well. It's a very dark image. This is the Trishul, and this is Lord Shiva. This is the moon right next to him, and this is him sitting in his yogic pose, and on a leopard skin down below. You can see the Trishul here. So
image is hard to see, so that if I don't know if you can make it any bigger because people will be definitely interested in this image. Is there a way for you to make it full
I'm
screen?
making it whole screen, and it is taking a minute. Do you see anything on the screen? No.
It's still spinning wheels, but we will eventually.
For
So
some
please continue
reason,
the narration as the screen comes up.
there you are.
There we
So
go.
I don't know if
And I think much
you
better,
see,
much better. Now
you
it's
see
much better. Yes,
you see
now
the
we can
tiger
see the
skin,
Trishul. Yes,
the
yes,
tiger screen, the moon, and the Trishul
yes,
here.
yes. But we can
This
see
is
all of it now.
this is from a fresco, and like similar to what it was in the Ajanta caves in the south central part of India. This is from Penjikent in Tajikistan. So Tajikistan, before it was converted to Islam under the Abbasid rule in the 8th or 9th century Common Era, for hundreds of years before, Tajikistan was a Hindu and a Buddhist state. And many Hindu deities interlink with Buddhism in that area because, as we discussed in our previous show, go back and watch our show, we had a deep conversation on how the Mahayana Buddhism that was in Afghanistan through Tibet, Korea, Japan is very closely interlinked theologically with Hindu Dharma. And, in modern terms, Buddhism is considered separate by the Western scholars. But, for us as World Hindu Council of America, WHP, we are all one family. So this Shiva is from Tajikistan. It was actually, the fresco was actually done by a ethnic community that was a mixture of Turks, modern day Turks, and Huns, or you might have heard in your history lessons. So they were Alkan Huns or Huns and Turks, and so their ancestors were Hindus in this region, as you can see. So I just thought I will chime in with that nugget of information because many people in India do not know or do not realize how far and how multi-ethnic Hindu Dharma was. I mean, even the most ardent followers of Hindu practices today still believe that Hindu Dharma was ethnically Indian, which itself is a diverse ethnic group, bunch of people from different parts of the world. But it's a very Indian thing. But as you can see here, many Huns were Hindus, many Turks were Hindus. Turks were Hindus for hundreds of years. Even the Proto-Turks, before the ethnicity that existed before the Turks, were also Hindus. So this is just something I thought I would share.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is what makes this show unique because we have this tidbits of history information that we present in this show. So that overall, I think one of the things I found interesting is that some of there were a lot of tweets that came out, and they were from organizations who are particularly not very pro-Hindu, right? And who have consistently demonstrated their anti-Hindu streak. One of them happens to use the Hindu name called Hindus for Human Rights. And their partners are Indian American Muslim Council. So tell us what they said.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear about that. Just because the organization has the name Hindus for Human Rights doesn't mean it speaks as Hindus or for Hindus. It is officially receives support from Council for American Islamic Relations and co-hosts events with them, which is a very Hindu-phobic organization. It's just a couple of Hindus using the name Hindu to push the Islamist agenda. That is Hindus for Human Rights. And they came out with an article. And I spoke to the organizers of the event, both in HinduPACT as well as in GKPD. And these guys were probably, they actually were there at the hotel. That's, I've been told. And they were trying to intimidate the Afghan speakers. So imagine this: Indian American Muslim Council and Hindus for Hindus, I should put in quotes.
And they're doing this in an American society which is a democratic society where people have freedom of speech, a constitutional right to speech,
They
and they
go
are
to a
intimidating
private
the speakers in
establishment.
America.
They go to a private establishment at the Capitol Hill and try to intimidate the Afghan speakers who are victims of Taliban. And in the tweet they make, guess who do they tag? Ilan Omar and Rashida Talib.
Of
So
course.
if you remember
Why
this,
that was surprising?
yeah, if you remember the speech the last speaker Clifford Smith gave on how
Right.
how Rashida Talib, how Ilan Omar took a special permission to go after a Kashmiri Hindu victim of genocide in a hearing at the Capitol Hill, you see the connection. And
Yeah.
people have to, even the most skeptical amongst our Hindu community in America should really see behind the one layer of onion here, as Clifford's put it out. So these guys, these quote unquote Hindus for human rights, pro-Islamist group and IAMC, make tweets and write articles hours after this event was being hosted by HinduPACT and Kashmiri diaspora group GKPD, that they were not allowed in because and they tweeted it to Ilan Omar. So
Well,
that's it.
first of all, it's a private event. Nobody has to be,
And they were
invited.
complaining that there were no Muslims being included in the
Again, it's a private event. I mean, of course, there were Muslims here, but they don't have to be. This is a private event.
No, no, but
Why would
they
you
don't
have
even
to
get
have?
their facts right. They don't even get their facts right. There was a Kashmiri Muslim in the form of Sengesari. There were two
Yeah,
Afghan Muslims, one of them a woman, and there was
yeah.
one Hindu speaker, which was Mohan Sapru. So, if actually you want to look at it, there were three Muslim speakers. If you were to wear a pseudo liberal woke leftist hat that many of these organizations try to wear, and just do this breakdown of identities, there were three Muslim speakers, one Hindu speaker, and one Christian speaker. And somehow, VHP
And
is a fascist group here. This is
so
how
that
this
the
thing
way I
goes.
look at it is, I mean, they didn't. They talked about most. I mean, the way I look at it is that this event was enormously successful because the best they could come up with was a made up, data saying that there were no Muslims in this event. If that's all they have to say about it, it shows that there was nothing they could actually ideologically, nothing from fact perspective, data perspective, anything that was presented is in this event that they could counter. And so that actually points to the intellectual bankruptcy on their part, because they, and the factual and the bankruptcy on the account of facts on their part, that they have really nothing to say other than, well, the participant list or invitee list did not include so and so. If that's all you have to say, then you really have lost the battle there already. And so I think Hindus for Human Rights, and IMC, you got to try harder next time.
Well,
Because whatever you did not
I think
work.
both GKPD and HinduPACT should thank them, because the Twitter handle Kashmir Forward, and I think I would encourage all of our guests to go to that Twitter handle, Kashmir Forward, one word. That Twitter handle was almost trending on that day and the day after, because of all these shenanigans that these pro-Islamist groups do to prevent voices from victims of Taliban and Hizbul Mujahideen, all these terror groups, from even speaking in Washington DC. Like, that's how rabid these guys are. And I mean, Kashmir Forward was all over the place, trending on the 30th because of the activism from these groups. So I think HinduPACT and GKPD should thank these guys for doing what they do, as long as they do it peacefully. That's the most important thing. We don't want them to indulge in violence like many of their sponsors do in Islamabad and, and Taliban does in Afghanistan.
And then Utsada, there were literally, tens of thousands of views of the tweet that was, related tweets on Kashmir Forward. Not, I mean, I'm not saying that tens of thousands of tweets, but some of the tweets, we look at the data on how many people viewed the tweet. It exceeded, it exceeded our wildest expectations, and so that was great, great outcome.
I would say so, and I would really congratulate all the organizers. I mean, people in Washington DC area involved with HinduPACT who put this together. and people in GKPD all over America who promoted this event, worked with this as a team. I really congratulate them. Kudos to them. Hopefully, more and more people join this effort in educating people.
Absolutely. So, Usada, before we close this segment, any final thoughts on that, on this?
No, I think you will hear a lot. So, one point I just wanted to make over the next couple of days, you will see a lot of social media activism because Article 370's second year anniversary is coming up. Small little efforts that are put together by the Hindu communities and their partners in America. The other side gets riled up and they will do 10 times more investment in trying to create trouble. So keep an eye out, educate people on what we have to say as a community. And truth is on our side, so all we need to do is to state it, and it takes care of the propaganda. So over the next week or so, keep promoting Kashmir forward, keep tweeting around, share it with your lawmakers, educate the media, educate average Americans, and members in America is a very diverse country. So if the other side can brainwash Ilhan Omar, who probably has no clue about Kashmir, by then you have also got the ability to reach out to the rest of the American communities and share the truth, and I think that brings energy. And with
So,
what
I have a
Taliban is
question
doing-
for you.
yes,
I have a question for you. Who is the and maybe people in the chat can or who are watching us can also answer this question. There's so many people with Hindu name in Congress, right? Who is there in Congress to counter Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib?
well, I wish there was Tulsi Gabbard in Congress, and I wish there
All
were.
right, right now, who is it? Who is it among the current congressional representatives? And again, we don't want to. I mean, obviously, we don't want to make enemies out of Congress people or any of that. But the reason I bring this up, Utsoda, is not to insult them, but what I'm trying to tell the people who have Hindu names, who are Hindus, right, who are in the Congress today, that look, there are 20 million people who follow Hindu dharmic practices in America. There are 6 million Hindus, and if you count the Buddhists and all the other people, there are 6 million Buddhists, and they count all the people who follow dharmic traditions in one way or the other, from yoga to meditation to Ayurveda to you name it, right? There are 20 million people, 22 million people in America. This is a constituency. This is an opportunity for people who are in Congress, and they don't even have to be Hindu with the Hindu name. Any congressman, any congresswoman, any senator can take this role, because these are the voters. This is a successful minority. This is the minority that is affluent. And if this is a minority that is looking for representation in Congress, so I would say that this is an opportunity for people in Congress today to come and become the Hindu representative, a voice of Hindus in Congress and in Senate. Right, Utsada?
Yes, I mean, I think we should have a whole show about this. And we should probably try to dissect and peel the onion layers off to understand the reason why Hindu Americans do not claim causes that are very relevant to Hindus around the world the same way as Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or even left-leaning AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It represents and takes up causes on behalf of the Muslim communities, including causes that are very toxic, including causes from the Islamist communities, which just now we pointed out in the presentation. There is a reason for that. Even if the Hindu cause is genuine, they don't take it up. Indian lawmakers don't take it up because there are reasons behind it. We should look into the reasons, analyze it. That's a show in itself, I believe.
Well, and then, so I think one of the things that advocacy organizations, the Hindu advocacy organizations, should do is explain the value proposition. I think that is the opportunity. So that with that, let's move on to our regularly scheduled segment. The first one, and we have three of them, as everyone knows. the Hindu Good News of the Week, the Hindu Seva or Charity Act of the Week, and our most anticipated segment, the Hindu Phobe of the Week. So that with that, let me this time I slightly different. So let me just play this a little video clip and as the intro for that.
मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं.
So, I want to once again nominate the VHPA because there's still COVID that is going on in India, and I think that we want to we are supporting various seva activities in India. Our log project, the log that we provide from. Sorry, my screen is not sharing. Let me make sure. I hope you can see my screen. Just a second. There you go. Also, I want to once again nominate the fundraising for the COVID-19 efforts that VHP America is doing for Kashmir, or World Council of America is doing. It's not Kashmir, I'm sorry, for COVID-19. We still have over 35 to 39,000 new cases being reported. The last numbers I saw this morning, over 550 deaths. Now, in a population of 1.5 billion people, that's not as large a number, but it is also predicted that in August or sometime in September, India may have the third wave of COVID hitting, and so we need to make sure that the rural communities and the communities in urban congested areas, the poorer communities, are set up for a good, are set up to respond to COVID-19 with good healthcare infrastructure. So that is the Hindu Seva Act of the Week. Please go to vhp-america.org, click on the donate button and donate to the COVID-19 efforts that VHPA is supporting in India. Utsada, the next segment, the regularly scheduled segment that we have is the Hindu Good News of the Week. And Utsada, I have a really good news, which sometimes I feel that this should not even be the news, but we live in a world where it is a news. So let's talk about it. Utsada, the Hindu Good News of the Week is, as you know, that Indian state of Karnataka has a new chief minister. And this new chief minister, Bommai, has said that the Karnataka government will not use the temple funds for non-Hindu religious purposes. Utsada, you may recall that about a month, maybe 2 months ago, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, Vishwa Hindu Parishad in India, discovered that the money that people go. So, first of all, a little bit of background. In many states in the south and some in the north, the temples are controlled by the temple endowment funds. And these temple endowment funds are actually managed and controlled by the state government. There is no law that says that the money. So these are the funds that so that people like you and I go to mandir and we put money in the hundi and we put let's say we put $1 or $5 or whatever, right? All of that money goes to the state government, and there's no law that says where the state government would use this money. And so a lot of times the money gets used for general purposes, but much worse, these donations end up funding anti-Hindu activities, or they end up funding organizations that are non-Hindus. So Karnataka government, for example, decided that they would give monthly salaries and pension to to the Maulvis, the Islamic preachers, out of this Hindu endowment fund. Now, so that when you and I go to a mandir and we put our dollar in the hundi or $5 or whatever it is, we want that money to go for the upliftment of mandir, for the benefit of the pujari over there, things like that, right? It is not anywhere in our thought that this money will end up being used for non-Hindu purposes. And this caused a lot of uproar, and eventually this order was rescinded, and the money didn't go. But this continues to happen in many different states right now. The new chief minister of Karnataka, the state in India, has said that the government is notified in his first 3 days. He notified that the mandir funds will not be used for non-religious purposes. Now you can call it good news, and we will call it good news for today. But there is a systemic problem, and the systemic problem, Utsoda, is that why would the mandir funds be managed by government? The money donated to a church is not managed by the government in India or in state government. The money given to a mosque is not managed by the state governments. Why just mandir? And at some point, the movement to free the mandirs from government control is going to take hold. It's already every day it is gaining momentum. It's only a matter of time before the Hindu mandirs are freed from the clutches of state governments. Utsada, your comments.
No, I believe it is only in India that that such things can persist after 72 years of independence, 74 years of independence, and it is so hard that there are 1.2 billion Hindus in India, as in the country of India, and this movement still hasn't borne results because governments have been able to convince people that they need to control religious institutions only of the Hindus. That speaks a lot about how colonized Hindus in general have been over the last many decades. The continuation of the Islamic and the British colonization persists, because of which governments who usually cater to the lowest common denominators and are very much beholden to vote bank politics. All democratic governments are, and not just unique to India, in other parts of the world as well. But the communities and the voters usually create the pressure. And in India, the fact that people are being able to, majority Hindus are being able to create that pressure is good news. It highlights the losing power of the colonized elites in the Indian power structure.
Absolutely. Utsada, with that, we come to our favorite segment of the week, right? And so let's have some drum roll here.
Ajay, this time I want you to be the one speaking about it. I hogged the limelight throughout. I took the mic away.
No.
For the Kashmir presentation.
When you talk about the Hindu form of the week, it kind of brings the authenticity to it, because,
No. This time you
it
should.
comes with a special passion.
No. This time you should.
All right, let me talk about this. So the Hindu form of the week is this person, Dawood, in Pakistan, who intimidated a Hindu, and he made him say, so the name of the person was Prakash Hirani, and this Abdul Salam Abu Dawood is the guy on the left-hand side of the screen. He intimidated this Hindu and made him say terrible things about the Hindu gods and goddesses, and about his own family. So Utsada, I have a clip, and I would say that if you don't want to hear this, it's 30-second clip, and I would not blame anyone if they didn't want to hear this particular clip. Or if I have it, I'll show you. I think I don't have it, which is might as well. I don't think I need to show that clip. I had it, I took it out because, or I have the link. So if Utsada, I leave it to you. Should we be playing this clip and listening to the insults on Hindu deities just so that people know what is happening in
Yeah,
the
I
world?
think if you have the link, we should just show
Oh
it.
yeah, I have the link and it is all here. I wasn't sure if we should play this link or not. I think people should hear it because this is the kind of these are the kinds of things that if people need to hear to see what kind of what the
I want
Hindus in Pakistan are enduring. So I'm just opening up
I want
the
the Hindus for Human Rights folks who usually end up watching our video later on should hear it. If
yeah, yeah.
you guys are listening, then you should hear
You
this.
think that they're going to grow consciences of that? I mean, I'm just curious.
I don't think they are going to grow a conscience. I just hope they ask for more money from whoever sponsors them because they are actually killing their conscience for the money they get.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. We'll play the clip, Utsuda, if it's just loading. This is the. It takes a little while to load. Oh, here we go. I have it. All right, Utsuda. Let's see this clip. Oops. Sorry. This is the window. This is where the clip is. I'm going to share my entire screen, and I'm going to go to this a Chrome tab. There we go. And this is the share. All right. So you can see this.
Yes.
बोल तेरा भगवान भेड़ चोद है अल्लाह अकबर बोल भेड़ चोद पाकिस्तान में गंद डाल रखा तुम लोगों ने
So this is so blatant and brazen that not only this guy, intimidated this guy, but he himself posted it on YouTube.
Yeah.
That is, so he has actually he never feared any repercussions in Pakistan. That he can actually get away with something like this by posting this kind of stuff by himself.
See, that is because you have to understand how this guy thinks. This guy doesn't think in terms of human to human interaction. This guy genuinely believes that he has, as a Muslim, he has the theological mandate to treat this poor man who is probably a resident of that piece of land for 4,000 years before these guys' ancestors, as the Muslim guy believes, came from somewhere else and conquered this land for Islam. This guy who he's beating up, the Hindu guy, has lived in this land for thousands of years, and now he has no place to live because now this is an Islamic land, and this is what the problem is, and this is the perpetrator of this incident is part of a bigger machine that has ravaged humanity in many ways, and he's just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
And this guy was probably a Hindu 3-4 generations ago, and now this
And
event
his own
has landed.
ancestors were probably a Hindu 3-4 generations ago. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what. And now he's he's at the forefront of insulting Hindus, and this is just indicative of what kind of hate-filled people Hindus face every single day in Pakistan. And people who run Hindus for Human Rights have never spoken about this. They have no compassion. They have compassion. They have no compassion for Hindus anywhere in the world.
The reason for that is because they are running somebody else's, they're carrying somebody else's water, and they have to do what somebody else does. So ask them to do. So why would they do it?
I wouldn't. I don't want to ever say where their funding is coming from. I don't want to ever say, that they are getting sponsorship from someone or the other. We don't know any of that. Okay.
No, you look into their
But
501c3 documents.
no. Utsada, but let's not even go there. Let's not even go in the fund and money part of this. Not our problem. Let them get money from wherever they're getting. I would look at the causes they're supporting, and I would say that they are aligned with people who don't like Hindus. And they're using the name Hindu in their name, in the organization name, to attack Hindus.
Correct. That's their mandate. That's their job.
That's their job. It doesn't matter. I mean, maybe they're doing it because in their heart, they're anti-Hindus.
It could be. Could be.
We
Whatever is
don't
the
know.
outcome, their actions are anti-Hindus. That's the problem.
Their actions are anti-Hindu, and that their actions indicate that there's not a Hindu cause that they've ever liked. So
They do not
we'll just
believe in the Hindu cause, because to them Hindus are meant to be colonized and be at somebody else's service. That's what they
right.
believe.
And so they're anyway. So that I'll stop there. I want to bring up two things. One, today we have a special treat at the end of the show. So I don't want anyone to leave because this is something that you guys are going to love it. But before I go there, I want to again remind everyone that we have a HinduPACT Gala 2021 coming up August 22nd. Please go to the website which is on your screen and register for the gala, because I'll put it up as a label as well, so that maybe you can put it up as a caption. Oh, I got it. So please go and register. We have people. We have the theme is harmony in multicultural society, the Hindu way. We are going to talk to multiple speakers belonging to multiple faiths and talk about Hindu Dharma. We are also going to talk about a new project. In fact, that is our special next week called Chingari, launched by HinduPACT. So HinduPACT has launched this project called Chingari. I don't want to give away what it is, but if you want to know and if you're curious, go to chingari.org, chingari.org to get a preview. We started, the initial soft launch was on 30th of July. So please go check out chingari.org. Next week, HinduLounge special on Chingari. And there is also a dance drama as part of the gala. Please go to HinduPACT website, go to the URL that is displayed here, and register for the HinduPACT Gala. It is free. There's no cost, but we just know how much, how many licenses to get for how big a webinar we want to do and all that. And that is why we want all of you to register. Okay. And you'll have an opportunity to, when you register, you can also interact with the speakers and all of that. Now, the final thing, and this is really the highlight of the show. I don't want to, every week we listen to Decibels and amazing music they create for that episode of this particular episode of HinduLounge. I finally asked Decibels to see if they can provide a video and not just the audio of what their work is. So Utsada, as a special treat, we got a full video of how the special music for HinduLounge 64 was created by Decibels, and along with Vikram Shankar. So Decibels and Vikram Shankar coming up next. Utsada, thank you very much for a great show. Listen to and watch this time Decibels and their amazing music specially created. You'll know what raga it is, you'll know what tala it is, and you'll see the decibel in action. Sada, thank you again for joining. And we turn over the show now to decibels, right?
Thank you, Ajay bhai, and it was a pleasure having this 64th Hindu Lounge. Thank you, Decibel, and I take credit for convincing Ajay bhai to force you to do the video.
Thank you. We appreciate all that you have done every time you do for Hindu Lounge. And with that, thank you everyone for joining. We'll do this again next week, a special show on Chingari. And I see Maya Durga on the screen. So, Maya Durga, namaste. And thank you for joining.
Maya
So, thank you, everyone.
she sat out the show and decided to join at the last moment to say namaste to everybody. And
she said namaste at the beginning. So this is so I'm sure she was watching somewhere on YouTube. Thank you, Maya Durga.
She was taking a shower and eating some food and doing other.
Oh, okay.
She's
Maya Durga, you got to do this, every week. Okay, you got to join the show because people join to watch Maya Durga, not to listen to us. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye, Maya.
Namaste.
Namaste.
She's doing bye now.
Bye. Oh, she said bye now. All right. Bye. All right. So that